for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson. I'm your co-host.
I'm Katy Steele.
I'm Jack Prince.
And we have got quite a few topics today. There are just some things that are absolutely surreal in this world. And we might as well call this the surreal show today because
things are getting weird.
Things are getting bizarre, beyond weird. Oh, man. Well, I tell you what, we've also got a Hammer Time segment, 2 winners this week. We'll get into that. Jack, one of them is your girl there, the South Dakota governor. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, couple of reminders. You can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can follow us on Tumblr at southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can follow us on YouTube by doing a search for Southpaws Radio. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime you like at Spreaker, Stitcher, or Apple Podcasts by doing a search for Southpaws. And once you found our logo, you found us. We send links to our weekly episodes to our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube accounts. You can listen to us on Global Community Radio Channel 1 every Saturday night at 11 Eastern. And you can hear us on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, and KEPJ San Antonio, Texas. Make sure you listen to us there as well. I never thought that I would see the day that we would have to talk about a CIA plot to kidnap and assassinate Wikileaks founder Julian Assange. But saying that, are we really surprised?
Not at all.
Oh, I'm surprised that they screwed up bad enough that it didn't take 50 years for us to actually see the conversation. I assumed that we would have to wait for them to unseal it. But it is kind of funny that they managed to really drop the ball there and give us all the information within just a few years so that we can all use it. Because we need it right now. We need people to see what's going on.
Yes. I have this story. This is Julian Borger writing for The Guardian. This is dated September 27th. Senior CIA officials during the Trump administration discussed abducting and even assassinating Wikileaks founder Julian Assange. That is according to a U.S. report citing former officials. The discussions on kidnapping or killing Assange took place in 2017, according to Yahoo News, when the fugitive Australian activist was entering his 5th year sheltering in the Ecuadorian embassy. I'm actually surprised the Yahoo News reported this.
I'm just going to stop you for a second and tell you that I had no idea until this moment that Julian Assange was Australian.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I've heard a lot about him. I knew he was not from America. I knew he wasn't from England, but I never questioned, I guess, where he was from. So good to know.
Yeah. The then CIA director, Mike Pompeo, and his top officials were furious about WikiLeaks' publication of Vault 7, a set of CIA hacking tools, a breach which the agency deemed to be the biggest data loss in its history. Jack, I believe we talked about Vault 7 on this show, didn't we?
Yes, we certainly did.
Back then?
Yeah.
Oh, I spent a lot of time digging through Vault 7. There is some crazy, weird stuff in there.
Yeah.
See, these revelations are made, but other than you and Darren, nobody goes back. I mean, what were the papers? Amazon papers?
The Panama Papers.
Panama Papers.
Yes, the Panama Papers.
Hell, I mentioned Dan Ellsberg's name. Who? Dan Ellsberg.
People don't know who he is.
No.
He's written some most informative things we can find, which is why people don't know, because they're not reporting it. This hasn't made any of the main network channels except for this one Business Insider article that we've managed to find.
Nobody's reporting on it. None of the cable outlets, none of the networks.
Now, see, and there was a time when American journalism thrived on iconoclasm, where there are no iconoclasts.
Right.
that's gone.
Well, and if we go back to 2016, if we rewind, which feels like yesterday, 5 years, to when this was all coming out, right? And we were starting to read it. And I mean, the media talked about it all the time. But what they did was they attributed it all to conspiracy. Mm-hmm. And the WikiLeaks, they convinced the public, without directly saying it, that these were all emails made up by the Russians, sent out and fed mainly to Bernie Sanders supporters to give us fuel to just go down this rabbit hole. Basically, what happened with Q is what they were saying WikiLeaks was.
Yeah.
That was
that's
how
true.
they painted it in the moment.
Yeah.
And anybody who was reading those emails, we were reading them, trying to understand them, and trying to convince ourselves that maybe it wasn't true, because we did not want it to be true, because that is the scariest possible answer, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But not one, and Jack was talking about this earlier, not one of these emails has ever been redacted.
No.
None
No.
has been proven not to have been real.
Yep.
No.
These were real emails.
Yep.
Russia did not make the emails. Russia didn't disseminate them. It was an Australian man who managed to come across this information he knew was critical for the public to see. He put it out. Mm-hmm. And instead of the press reporting what actually happened, they made the entire thing look like a conspiracy theory while the U.S. CIA planned to kill him.
We were on the side of WikiLeaks before it was popular. You remember way back.
Absolutely.
I didn't. I cannot say I was that far ahead of the game, but
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah.
3 years ago.
Here's some trivia for you listeners. How many retractions has WikiLeaks as a journalistic organization had to make since their inception? The answer is 0. None. No retractions. They report truth.
And they've won every court case that has challenged their information. Every single one.
Find another network that can say that.
Exactly. They have won journalistic awards around the globe.
They've had every other major news network organization rally together to paint them as a conspiracy theorist. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think that right there should be enough for anybody with critical thinking skills to start going, what are they talking about? Because that's what we need to know.
Mm-hmm. Let me continue the story here. Pompeo and the CIA leadership were completely detached from reality because they were so embarrassed about Vault 7. That is according to a former Trump national security official telling that to Yahoo News. Quote, they were seeing blood, end of quote. Some senior officials inside the CIA and the Trump administration went as far as to request sketches or options for killing Assange. A former senior counterterrorist official was quoted as saying this, quote, there seem to be no boundaries, end of quote. By the way, the CIA has declined to comment on any of these stories, either Yahoo News or The Guardian. The kidnapping or murder of a civilian accused of publishing leaked documents with no connection to terrorism would have triggered global outrage. Actually, I'm going to stop there. Do you agree with that assessment? Do you think that would trigger global outrage? I don't know if it would trigger outrage here because everybody is... We're all walking around brain dead.
Certainly worthy of outrage, but whether or not that was a reaction, I'm not convinced at all.
Yeah. So let me continue here. Pompeo raised eyebrows in 2017 by referring to WikiLeaks as, quote, a non-state hostile intelligence service, end of quote.
See, that's one of the ways they painted it as some Russian spy network just meant to suck up us morons and make us follow them. Like, and then they came out with Q right after that.
And that was embraced wholeheartedly.
Yeah. The Yahoo report said that it was a significant designation as it implied a green light for a more aggressive approach to the pro-transparency group by CIA operatives who could treat it as an enemy espionage organization.
Which they tried to paint it as, as they were attempting to plan his assassination.
And have pretty much successfully have done so to conservatives in this country. Mm-hmm. Barry Pollock, Assange's U.S. lawyer, did not respond to a request for comment, but he told Yahoo News, quote, as an American citizen, I find it absolutely outrageous that our government would be contemplating kidnapping or assassinating somebody without any judicial process simply because he had published truthful information. My hope and expectation is that the UK courts will consider this information and it will further bolster its decision not to extradite him to the U.S. End of quote. So, hopefully, but I don't know. I really don't know. Look how we've treated other whistleblowers in this country. Chelsea Manning, for one.
Yeah, harassed almost to death.
Who was the one that's out
Miley?
she was just released on house arrest. Oh my God, she's a reality winner. She was you remember Reality Winner, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Jack, you're kind of puzzled. She was a whistleblower for, I believe, the NSA.
Yep. I'm trying to remember what she actually published.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of her name.
Yeah.
Oh, how about Gary Webb? Is it Gary Webb? We talked about him on the show.
Mm-hmm.
The whistleblowing that the city of Los Angeles was addicted to heroin because the CIA was selling
They were
cocaine
selling
there.
the cocaine just to raise the money. What were they raising the money for? I can't remember, but I did hear that. I did hear that
then
story.
Didn't he eventually commit suicide?
In prison, right? Or
Yeah.
Yeah, let me. What was his name again?
he might still be in prison, if I'm not mistaken. Actually,
Gary Webb.
Gary Webb.
Gary
that's what
Webb.
he said.
Yes.
They made a movie about him.
Yeah, let me take a look here.
They moved him out to Arkansas.
Let me see here. Supposedly committed suicide.
Lost his wife.
Yeah, let me see here. He was found dead in his Carmichael home in December 10, 2004 with 2 gunshot wounds to his head. The death was ruled a suicide.
Who knows?
Yeah.
With two gunshot wounds,
to his
yeah.
head.
Yeah.
What? What?
Yeah.
But the thing is, that one to me is one of the most simple and revealing. It traced Reagan's actions, selling the arms to Iran, going down to South America, flying cocaine back. It was the Golden Triangle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was completely empirical,
And
it got no attention.
That was
Nothing.
the moment that we should have known it was so far gone. So far gone.
Not a chance.
Because that's where we're at right now. You know, we've got... I read a meme this morning that like condensed it better with numbers, but they were talking about how there was one billionaire before the pandemic who was worth more than $100 billion, and now there are more than 10 of them who are worth more than that.
Yeah.
And just in this last couple of years, and what are they doing with that power? They're using it to maybe have to shut down the government so that they don't have to pay more taxes. They're using it to install security so that we can't come back when they decide not to follow the legal system.
Exactly.
And we're letting it happen. And we're thinking we'll just use the legal system. They've already bought that. They will. You can do so many things wrong as a rich person, a millionaire, a billionaire. And as I was reading about some of the companies last night, some of these hedge funds, so many of them have been in trouble for insider trading and stealing millions and millions of dollars. They get a year in jail, 2 years in jail, and then they get out with good time. They are above this system. We cannot use the system to take them down.
Very true.
We are just running around in circles and chasing our tails while they keep us in this pen.
It's very true.
Yep.
You know, I never understood the term triangulation. Remember big Bill Clinton's forte?
Yeah.
I always, for some reason, when they said that, I heard strangulation. But the thing is this not triangulation or strangulation when Nancy Reagan is talking with her motto, her moniker, just say no to drugs, while her husband is pushing planes with cocaine into L.A.?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually, here's the story, Jack. This is from Gary Webb's Wikipedia page. Webb is best known for his Dark Alliance series, which appeared in the Mercury News in 1996. The series examined the origins of the crack cocaine trade in Los Angeles and claimed that members of the anti-communist Contra rebels in Nicaragua had played a major role in creating the trade, using cocaine profits to finance their fight against the government in Nicaragua. It also stated that the Contras may have acted with the knowledge and protection of the CIA. The series provoked outrage, particularly in the Los Angeles African-American community, and led to 4 major investigations of its charges. So, there you go.
Another iconoclast, since we're on the term, the guy that blew the whistle on the My Lai massacre, who has been in constant threat for his life since that day.
Yep.
That this was not a heroic battle. It was an open slaughter.
Yep.
Open slaughter.
Yeah. Yeah. Reality Winner, just to refresh everybody's memory, On June 3rd, 2017, while employed by the military contractor Pluribus International Corporation, Winter was arrested on suspicion of leaking an intelligence report about Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. election from the National Security Agency to The Intercept. The report indicated that Russian hackers accessed voter registration rolls in the U.S. with an email phishing operation, though it was unclear whether any changes had been made. Concerns were raised that The Intercept's handling of the material exposed her as the source and contributed to her arrest. And, of course, she's now in a transitional facility, so she's not in prison, but she's in a halfway house.
And I always thought that was a bit questionable, in my opinion, because when it came out, I just couldn't. First of all, she worked for a security agency within the United States, which I don't trust. I don't trust their employees, and I don't trust the security agencies.
Yeah, she was actually a military contractor.
Yeah,
so
and when it did come out, because I didn't trust who she was and where she was coming from, I was sketched out about the information and the timing. And it was also at the time when they were trying to portray WikiLeaks as being this Russian. Mm-hmm. So I appreciated knowing that there was tampering found. Right? Because we were all being painted as, well, half of us didn't believe there was Russian tampering because of the way this information was presented to us. So had it not been for that whistleblower, I would have probably totally discounted the possibility of Russian tampering, assumed it was a made-up lie.
Yep.
And that would have really changed how I went forward with my views, how I voted, what I did after that.
Oh. It takes an iconoclast to break our heads through the ice of deception, the layers and layers of deception. Because you can break through one layer of deception and get pulled right back into the next one.
That's so true.
Until you get an iconoclast. Mm-hmm. You know, there was an award-winning presentation, I think Noem Chomsky was behind this, that talked about Media Pennsylvania. Have you ever heard that term? Mm-mm. Where a group of, I think one guy was a pacifist priest, broke into, after months of practice, an FBI building and got all the truth about how they're trying to kill Martin Luther King, all the canards about the...
Oh, my gosh.
And they went into hiding for decades. It was maybe the biggest purge into the FBI
oh my
ever.
Gosh.
They knew they had to do it because they were just about to move into a more fortified and protected facility.
Oh, wow.
And so they made their strike.
This was in 1971, the Citizens Commission to Investigate the FBI.
What?
Yeah.
We need this. I just want to read one
other... Oh, it's incredible.
Let me read this here.
This is amazing.
They later released thousands of documents to major newspapers around the country. These documents revealed FBI tactics, like the recruitment of Boy Scouts as informants.
Oh, my gosh.
And confirmed for the first time the existence of COINTELPRO, an FBI program to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize dissident groups in the U.S. So, yeah, this is amazing stuff here.
Oh, it's incredible. It blows your mind when you read that list.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am very interested in checking that out.
And they knew they had to hide it to be killed.
Yeah.
And they just recently surfaced.
Yeah, a couple of people have recently surfaced.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk to you guys about how close this is starting to come to home right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, because, I mean, CIA basically is what I believe these private security agencies are now, right? They're basically private police.
Yeah.
They're private police. They do what they want to do. They're undercover. Nobody knows who they are, but they have all the authority. So I started looking into a lot of the private agencies that have contracts with our government. Triple Canopy, Constellus are two of them that took over for Blackwater.
Yeah.
And actually have a contract right now to guard our State Department overseas. So that is who is watching Biden and Biden's staff, is Triple Canopy. Mm-hmm. Now, you stay up late at night and you will see commercials that are like pushing 9/11, right? They're like, they're still celebrating, memorializing 9/11 in the middle of the night. And I get to the end of the commercial and it's called Centennial Securities that paid for this ad.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Centennial Securities is literally the company that started right after 9/11 and has become all of these private military contracted companies. And now it's to the point where they have a sign at the storage company on my street on Division. It says Centennial Securities. And I'm like, what? Mm-hmm. They're just here now? They're openly running business. They've got $1 million contracts through our state government. And they have all the authority they want to do whatever they want. So, I mean, look at the vacuum store where they found the guys that were trying to kidnap Hitler.
Yeah.
If you go by there, the names of that store are the same names as the companies being run by Blackwater's old CEO. Wow. Cutting Edge is the company that put in the water pipes on my street. Cutting Edge Barbershop is now in that strip mall. They've got AAA Upholstery. All of these names coordinate to names that Blackwater subsidiaries are named. So it's to the point where it is right in our faces. Nobody's doing anything about it.
No.
They're trained by the Israeli security forces, which we're going to discuss in our next story as well.
Absolutely.
It is all connected, friends.
Let me finish this story here real quick here. Assange had been sheltering in the Ecuadorian embassy since 2012 to avoid extradition to Sweden to face sexual assault allegations. Let me add, in my opinion, trumped up allegations.
Probably trumped up, in my opinion, by the same companies we were just discussing.
He was arrested in 2019 after being evicted by the Ecuadorian government and is now in prison in London, from where he is fighting extradition to the U.S. U.S. prosecutors have accused him under the Espionage Act of seeking to assist Chelsea Manning in hacking a military computer network to obtain classified documents, attempting to help the former U.S. Army analyst, and conspiring to obtain and publish classified documents in violation of the Espionage Act.
Hero stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The use of the Espionage Act in the case was heavily criticized by human rights groups who pointed out that it opened the door for its use against investigative journalists in general, much of whose work revolves around obtaining and publishing information the governments would prefer to keep secret.
That was their point.
Exactly. Yeah, let's just forget freedom of the press. That's
the point. If we can get rid of the media, if we have a global private police department that is protecting these 20 billionaires, they own all of the security and infrastructure companies across the planet, and that's what they're doing. They're tying it all together. And I know that they have conspiracy theorized everything from 5G to vaccinations to medical care. Everything is a conspiracy theory. But I'm telling you right now, we have serious concerns with the stuff they're installing, and you need to pay attention to who's digging on your street, what they're putting in there. Keep your eyes open, because this is all very much going to be a large, secure facility. That's how I feel planet Earth is going to turn into, because I'm watching them do it.
They encourage and they relish, as you said, conspiracy theories. It's if I have a real $100 bill and I throw it on the floor and I surround it with 100 counterfeit dollar bills, you'll never find the real $100 bill. Right. Or chances are you never find it. When you do find it, you'll think it's fake like all the rest of them.
Yep.
So we got dewormers for health.
You won't even reach in the pile, because people are going to go, you're an idiot. Why are you reaching into the fake pile of $100 bills?
Yeah.
The veganism is satanic. Elvis hips were demonic. It's been going on for decades, right? Mm-hmm. Ellsberg told the truth that the Vietnam War was a canard. That's just as crazy as a dewormer. So they, to me, it's like the science fiction movies. Many of those things, like listening through walls and so forth, aren't science fiction. But if you have a movie
that tells you it is,
if you ever hear your neighbor thinks they're being listened to on the street, what the hell? You're watching too many science fiction movies.
Exactly. But then, say you're Britney Spears.
Let's go to Britney, who finally her dad has been removed as conservator. And I believe he's fighting it, isn't he?
I have not looked at the latest update on her dad.
I've been
digging
either.
into this stupid company he hired to surveil her.
But yeah, we'll talk about that. But the conservatorship is still in place for the time being. There is supposed to be a hearing sometime later this year to end the conservatorship, and hopefully it does happen, because this is really, really concerning stuff here. I have an article. This is Kylie Chung writing for Salon.com. This is dated September 28th. This summer, revelations about Britney Spears' nearly 13-year-old conservatorship overseen by her father shocked the nation, mobilizing many to rally to #FreeBritney. Spears' devastating testimony before a Los Angeles judge came just months after the New York Times bombshell documentary Framing Britney Spears forced many to reflect on how young female pop stars and celebrities have been treated through the years. Let me add male too, because child stars have pretty much been taken advantage of by their parents and everybody else.
Britney's back and she's naked.
I see
Sorry,
that.
she just posted nudes. I'm very excited.
And it turns out that the documentary only scratched the surface.
I'm sure.
With the recent release of the follow-up Controlling Britney Spears and Netflix's Britney vs. Spears, even more light is now being shined on Spears' harrowing story of alleged exploitation and abuse. Both documentaries ultimately peel back the layers of what we've already heard about the alarming power over her. Controlling Britney Spears, which has been put out by the FX channel on Hulu, examines the people and companies that allegedly enabled Spears' conservatorship and her father's control of her life through interviews with assistants who held close relationships with Spears and a whistleblower from her security detail.
Thank God for that guy, I just want to say.
Yep. In contrast, Britney vs. Spears offers extensive, at times almost voyeuristic glimpses into Spears' past, with uncomfortable footage of her public struggles with mental health in 2007 and 8. If you're able to stomach these images and the invasive inclusion of private text messages allegedly sent by Spears, the documentary also includes interviews with ex-romantic partners and more insight into her private years-long fight to be free of the conservatorship. Her dad has been suspended as conservator. They have appointed John Zabel, who is a CPA, as temporary conservator. The next hearing will be November 12th. The judge plans on ending the conservatorship then, according to National Public Radio.
Interesting. I rarely hear anybody publish what a judge intends to do at a future date.
Very true,
yeah. According to Controlling Britney Spears, Jamie Spears' ability to control his daughter relied on significant support from a security company called Black Box Security and TriStar Sports and Entertainment, the company that handles her accounting and finances. In Britney vs. Spears, Felicia Collada, a family friend and Spears' longtime assistant, is visibly afraid to speak about TriStar founder and CEO Lou Taylor and Taylor's partnership with Jamie to manage Spears' money and conservatorship. Collada says of Taylor, quote, "I will not touch that one. Sorry, she will chew me up and spit me out," end of quote. No one seemed to know what Taylor or TriStar director Robin Greenhill's roles on Spears' team were, only that these women were in constant communication with Spears' father and were highly controlling of Spears' every interaction and relationship. But the main antagonist of Controlling Britney Spears is, by and large, Black Box Security, which was hired by and worked closely with Jamie to monitor and police Britney's every move. That is according to Alex Vlasov, a whistleblower and former executive assistant at Black Box Security.
If you go on Black Box Security's website, you can check out what their services are. They offer, one of them is executive protection. Their agents are tactically trained in handling paparazzi, stalkers, and other similar threats. Our agents come from diverse military and special forces backgrounds, such as Israeli Security Agency, Israeli Defense Forces, U.S. Marine Corps, U.S. Army, and Navy SEALs. This unique combination of different backgrounds and trainings ensures that our agents have the capacity to quickly adapt to any culture, apply their knowledge and experience, and protect our clients against any threat in all environments. Mm-hmm. The stories we were reading have already explained that the company that was surveilling Britney managed to capture audio recording from her bedroom. Mm-hmm. Hours and hours worth of her audio. So everybody she talked to, her kids, her parents, her friends, her boyfriend, and there was apparently some extended audio of her having sex with her boyfriend. Mm-hmm. So I guess one of the security agents was told to get rid of the recording and make sure nobody ever sees it. And he managed to hold on to it because he thought it was going to be used later as evidence in her hearing.
Yeah.
So...
and also, if you go to their website,
I bet he hung on to it.
If you go into their menu, they have a drop-down menu that has their homepage, information about them. They have a heading for press. When you press that button, it comes up with a triangular or with a diamond sign, like a warning sign on the road, and it says, "We don't talk to the press." So that's what you get when you hire Black Box Security.
Yeah.
Which
what you get is control.
Yeah.
Whether it's over this woman's life, vote, women's bodies, free thought, protest, socialism, progressivism, blah, 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 blah. It's control.
Yes.
It's to stop it and keep it from extrapolating.
Yep. Her dad had control over all her money, all of her things. And the number one thing they said he was focused on, the security agents said that he was focused on the men that were trying to come into her life because he didn't want to share that. You know, he was the male power in her life, and damned if he was going to let some other guy come along and become any kind of advocate for her. Yeah. It's so sick. But it highlights a really big issue here because this guy just went out and he hired this private company to police his own kid, to investigate and police his own kid, which was totally 100% legal. Now, this is an international security company. Now, the laws here are different than the laws in England, right? Or Australia or Germany or any other country on the planet. So say I want to hire somebody in a different country to do something for me in another country. That kind of starts to make things a little complicated, right?
You would think.
You know, because, I mean, now you're thinking about elections, you think about campaigns, think about all the different things that could be a conflict of interest here with a private military company that can cross borders when people can't. There's no checks on these companies and agencies in crossing these borders and enforcing the military actions that they basically do. Because I'm sorry, when you're surveilling, recording, I mean, the things they were doing when they were containing her in an area and everything they've done it's violent and it's legal, which to me is nothing different than military. Legal violence, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me get to this. This is Liz Day and Samantha Stark writing for the New York Times. This was released in conjunction with the release of the New York Times documentary Controlling Britney Spears. I'm going to skip down a little bit here. Alex Vlasov, the employee, supported his claims with emails, text messages, and audio recordings he was privy to in his 9 years as an executive assistant and operations and cybersecurity manager for Black Box, the security firm. Recording conversations in a private place and mirroring text messages without the consent of both parties can be a violation of the law. It is unclear if the court overseeing Spears' conservatorship was aware of or had approved the surveillance. His account and his trove of materials create the most detailed portrait yet of what Britney Spears' life has been like under the conservatorship for the past 13 years. Vlasov said the relentless surveillance operation had helped several people linked to the conservatorship, primarily her father, control nearly every aspect of her life. Here's what he told the New York Times. Quote, "It really reminded me of somebody that was in prison, and security was put in a position to be the prison guards, essentially." Yep. End of quote.
And this, not to interrupt you, but this is why this story gets me. It really, really gets me because Britney Spears is incredibly wealthy, right? Incredibly wealthy. And in this world, absolutely, the way things are now, the number one way you acquire power is through money. So to see somebody with that much power, that much money, have it taken away from her because of her gender, and that's what it was. If she were a boy, they never would have put a conservatorship over her, ever. It was her gender that they were able to paint her is mentally unstable with using the press, which no doubt in my mind, the same security company that was surveilling her recently was working for them years ago. I did see reports that they have been working for her father for years. In my opinion, they absolutely helped orchestrate the mental health breakdown she had in the beginning so that he could get this control over her. So to have that kind of power taken away from you because you're a woman, a young woman, that's what happened. That means even if I manage to accumulate billions of dollars, I am still endangered. And that to me is a hell of a revelation.
Well, that's political power too. People that aren't nearly as articulate in political realms, again, going back to the CIA's break-in, these are dozens of years ago where they put a spy uncovered in that break-in with Martin Luther King. Close up. That worked for years that leaked. Let alone, the drugs into L.A. And when people hear this, they completely believe it too far-fetched.
Yeah.
Ask a progressive, what did you think of the Ellsberg's paper? Did you read the Panama Papers? Do you read anything at all?
Right.
That's beyond the Facebook.
Stream or Facebook narrative.
Right. There's a little bouncing ball on these real trite, little progressive viewpoints.
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
But the foundational truth that could make a difference is circumvented.
Every time now. And social media is being leveraged in this way to make that even more true, I think, than it would have been just based on human nature.
Right.
But yeah, the algorithms are helping it. And it's insane how oblivious we all are, even the critical thinkers.
You know, the vaccination where they're vaccinating blacks with syphilis. Mm-hmm. We talked about this on the show years ago. We talked, it's common knowledge in a few people's minds, but that was it. That was absolutely it.
And now that's when you bring that up, even to Democrats and progressives, and you're talking about, they think you're crazy because they're so pro-vaccination right now, because they've been brought so far with all of this narrative and these stories. It's hard to have a conversation with anybody, I think.
I'm going to continue this story here. Idan Yemeni, the chief executive and founder of Black Box Security, also did not respond to detailed questions from the New York Times. In a statement, his lawyer said, quote, Mr. Yemeni and Black Box have always conducted themselves within professional, ethical, and legal bounds, and they are particularly proud of their work in keeping Ms. Spears safe for many years, end of quote. Wow.
She didn't look very safe to me.
I thought they didn't talk to the media, but they'll send the lawyers to talk to the media, apparently.
Trust me. I mean, I have no idea if this is connected. I'm trying to find it right now to see if it's connected. But there is another company called Black Box Network Services that's a communication system integrator.
Yeah.
So I would argue they might talk to the press.
Yeah. Well,
they might be the press.
Yeah. So let me go here. I'm skipping down a little further. The security team's role has long been a mystery. Yemeni, the Black Box Security founder, was born in Israel and is described on the company website as having a background in the Israeli Special Forces. The Spears account helped Black Box grow from a tiny operation to a prominent player in the celebrity security industry. Among their clients, the Kardashian family, Miley Cyrus, and Lana Del Rey. Vlasov joined Black Box in 2012 as a 21-year-old college student, excited by the opportunity to master the security industry. He started as Yemeni's assistant and grew into a role that encompassed wide responsibilities over operations and digital management. Quote, I did everything from write his messages, write his emails, to be on all phone conversations in order to take notes for him. I was the only one at Black Box that knew everything, really, end of quote. He generally worked at Black Box's office in the Woodland Hills area of Los Angeles and seldom saw Britney Spears in person. But through the surveillance apparatus and his close work with Yemeni and his colleagues, Vlasov said that he had a uniquely comprehensive view of her life. Just think about that, just through surveillance. Yeah. But he probably knew more of what was going on with her life than she did.
I just keep thinking about, this was her dad. Mm-hmm. I mean, a good dad to a daughter, to a little girl. Think about it. What do? You protect your little girl. You keep her safe. You don't hire the most dangerous people on earth to spy on her when you're not even there. Mm-hmm. That is so sick.
The ultimate use of children for your own sake.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is child labor, slave labor, what he has done to her since she was born.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I've often thought the God of the universe was the first violator. He created two people and then sent the most dangerous, venomous, this is the storybook.
Right.
To tempt them so they would fall, so he'd have burning carcasses for eternity. That's using your kids. I mean, isn't he called God the Father?
Yeah, that's true.
So I have a house and I have a garden in the back and I have my kids playing out there in an idyllic situation. But I open the damn gate and say to my arch enemy, go. And by the way, I'm omniscient, so I know they're going to fail.
Yep.
How ridiculous. And yet, you know, the temptation is that people in India, China, sold the children for decades. Sold them as like you would have had an extra piece of vegetable in your garden. It's been chronicled. It's been logged. We know in Appalachia the parents many times sold their children to pay a damn mortgage payment. This is not atypical to human beings. It's foreign to our thinking. We all have children.
Very foreign to me. But
yeah. You know what? I just want to go off on this tangent. This is nothing new. This has been going on for damn near a century in this country. Ever since the start of Hollywood, child actors, child performers of any kind have been taken advantage of, mostly by their parents. We've seen it with the Little Rascals, the Our Gang, the Mouseketeers.
Yeah.
It just goes on and on and on. And there have been laws that have been instituted over the years to protect children, because up until recently, royalties, just getting into the music business, royalties are still a relatively new thing, because that's 50 years.
Darren, that is so true, but I'm also listening to Katy on the other side of the table right now. This surveillance and control
this
is to the peons, too. You don't have
Right.
to be a famous movie actor.
Right.
That's where it really gets scary.
yeah, and that's it. They're putting this on all of us. And I keep saying, in my opinion, because these companies own everything, I can't prove it in this moment.
Yeah.
But there is Black Box Security, which is one company, and there is another company called Black Box Corporation. Now, Black Box Corporation, their business is IT services, 5G, data centers, cybersecurity, United Communications and Collaboration, signage, network management, security, and optimization. So what we're saying here is that not only do these security agencies have the control to come into your bedroom and listen to you talk, but they're the ones that are putting the lions outside to run your internet, if that's what they're doing. Do we know? When we've got all these different companies out here with different names, and they're all touching and digging, and does that really feel safe to you guys, knowing our water's coming through those pipes, and that these companies are not all, they're not all originating from here. So maybe they don't have the same interests I do.
No, which I was getting to the point of saying, this has been going on forever. It's never gotten to this point where you have a security agency bugging
They don't have
his client's. I'll just say it. His client's daughter's bedroom,
and you almost won't have to after they're done if they're installing this stuff everywhere. That's my point. What is on our telephone poles? Because we don't own them. We don't own our streetlights, and that's where they're hooking up these cameras. Who's watching them? Is it people here? Are they even in our country? Because nobody's asking these questions. And when I go through and look at the city commission meetings where they're supposed to be asking for permission to put them up, they're going, we don't have to. You guys don't own the streetlights, and consumers said we could. So that's who's in charge of the surveillance that they're putting up right now, the energy companies. And that's the scariest thing I can think of, which is the other thing I wanted to discuss today.
I've looked. Maybe it's in the back room back here for a famous book about surveillance, going all the way back to the biggest jail in the world, and that was in England.
Yep.
And they're spending thousands of dollars with guards. So a guy came up with a design and said, let's make a new prison, and it has glass, and you can see all through all of their problems, all of their violence, everything stopped, because once you are under surveillance, you are your own master. You will obey the government because you know I have to. And the guy was Orkelman was his name for this prison. They call him the father of the surveillance community. The surveillance system, it's way back in the 1700s. And there were psychiatrists, that studied what happens intrinsically to a human being when they're under surveillance.
So even with that knowledge, they built the second largest prison in the world in Jackson, Michigan, I believe, and it was not set up that way. Almost like they wanted the violence. No, I lived in
Jackson. The walls are still there.
It's like they wanted the violence.
But go to the possibly, but go to the prisons. I worked in a detention center as a teacher. Those kids are surveyed every single moment of their life.
Right.
What does that do psychologically if you ever were to get out into the open air?
Exactly. Well, and that's what we're going to find out. Britney posted nudes today.
Yeah.
She posted what?
Nudes today.
Nude photos. Yeah.
She got free. She celebrated by posting naked photos. So, I mean, I'm very excited for her to have that kind of freedom. And yay.
Yeah.
Go naked.
But it's indicative of a bigger issue.
She doesn't have it 100% yet. Let's see what happens in November. Hopefully this conservatorship is gone, because I'm sorry, putting a 39-year-old on a conservatorship over something that happened when she was 26.
That you
no,
probably
wrong.
orchestrated and probably already harmed her.
Exactly.
What do you hear when you say conservatorship? I just hear
Yeah.
conservator rule.
I keep putting myself in her place and thinking about having to go out in front of millions of people and knowing you could tell them what was happening and it wouldn't matter. Mm-hmm. There is no way to make people understand.
How do we know it's not happening to all of us?
Because
how do we know a teacher what he says in his classroom or her classroom?
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Because in her case, all they do is roll the photo of her shaving her own head or whatever.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. She knows they can pull out one story and just completely take her legs out from under.
There was a liberal professor named Churchill. For years, the conservatives snuck in guys with cameras, and they would take little words. And years later, they spliced together whole speeches that he never said.
Oh, yeah, and they've learned how to do that now with
I tell you
editing.
what, dystopian movie. We've been talking for the last couple of weeks about dystopian movies. The Running Man.
Yeah, I remember it.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Richard Dawson, Jesse the Body Ventura. You need to see that.
Scary.
Dystopian and very scary. Well, I tell you what, let's get into something that's not quite so scary.
Stop. Hammer time.
Oh, yeah, it's hammer time. It is time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week, and we've got two of them for you this week. So anytime that we have two winners, Wade Garrett has to chime in.
The double douche.
Who is that guy? Gentlemen, Wade Garrett. Holy shit.
Exactly right.
Well, Wade Garrett serves him up today. Jack, one of your all-time favorites, wins once again. Winner number one, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. I have this story. This is Stephen Groves writing for the Associated Press, dated September 27th, out of Sioux Falls. Just days after a South Dakota agency moved to deny her daughter's application to become a certified real estate appraiser, Governor Kristi Noem summoned to her office the state employee who ran the agency, the woman's direct supervisor, and the state labor secretary. By the way, Noem's daughter attended that meeting as well.
Wow.
Cassidy Peters, then 26, ultimately obtained the certification in November 2020, 4 months after the meeting at her mother's office. A week after that, the labor secretary called the agency head, Sherry Bren, to demand her retirement, according to an age discrimination complaint Bren filed against the department. The 70-year-old Bren ultimately left her job this past March after the state paid her $200,000 to withdraw the complaint. Exactly what transpired at the July 27, 2020 meeting in the governor's office isn't clear. Noem declined an interview request. Her office declined to answer detailed questions about the meeting. Here's what her spokesman Ian Feary said, quote, "The Associated Press is disparaging the governor's daughter in order to attack the governor politically. No wonder Americans' trust in the media is at an all-time low." End of quote. So there we go. They're blaming the media. Here's what I have to say about that. Yep, right there it is. Still, government ethics experts who reviewed the series of events at the Associated Press's request said Noem's decision to include her daughter in the meeting created a conflict of interest regardless of what was discussed. While Peters was applying for the certification, Noem should have recused herself from discussions on the agency, especially any that would apply to her daughter's application. That's according to Richard Painter, professor at the University of Minnesota Law School. He was the chief ethics officer for, of all people, George W. Bush when he was president. Quote, "It's clearly a conflict of interest and abuse of power for the benefit of a family member." End of quote. So here's how this all started. Peters began working as a state registered appraiser, an entry-level job, in 2016. She worked under the supervision of a certified appraiser to get the experience necessary to apply for her own residential appraiser certification. It's a similar process to what Michigan does. You take classes, you then have to work under a certified appraiser, work so many hours, you get paid less money until you actually get your certification.
Yeah.
It's not an easy hurdle. Applicants must show they can perform appraisals to national standards, putting to use 200 hours of classroom education and months of experience. While trainees make as little as $10 an hour, certified appraisers can launch their own business and make up to $50,000 a year. In September 2019, Peters applied to become a certified residential appraiser, but in late July 2020, the appraiser certification program moved to deny the license, according to a July 27th letter from Peters' supervisor that was obtained by the Associated Press. The certification is denied when an applicant's work samples don't meet minimum compliance with national standards, according to the agency's upgrade procedures. Bren, who had directed the appraiser certification program for 3 decades, told the Associated Press that she received a text on July 26 from her supervisor telling her to be at the governor's office the next morning, ready to discuss appraiser certification procedures. Besides Noem and Peters, Bren said the meeting included Labor Secretary Marsha Haltman, who was Bren's supervisor, the governor's general counsel, and participating by phone, Noem's chief of staff and a lawyer from the state's Department of Labor and Regulation. Bren remembered it lasting close to an hour and including questions from Noem on how certification works. After consulting with her attorney, Bren declined to discuss with AP further meeting details, including whether Peters' upgrade was discussed. The settlement of her age discrimination complaint includes a clause barring her from disparaging state officials. However, Bren did confirm that at the meeting she was presented with a letter from Peters' supervisor, Christine Julfs, who wrote that she disagreed with the denial and charged that Peters had run up against an inefficient process. So that's this part of the story. But there's more.
The rest of the story.
Stephen Groves, writing for the Associated Press the next day. South Dakota's Attorney General said Tuesday he is reviewing concerns from state lawmakers over a meeting Governor Kristi Noem held last year that included both her daughter and a state employee who was overseeing her daughter's application to become a certified real estate appraiser. So South Dakota Attorney General Jason Ravensburg said, quote, "I have been contacted by concerned citizens and legislators. I am actively reviewing their concerns, and I will be following the steps described in codified law in relation to those questions." End of quote. Here's the issue. Noem and Ravensburg, even though they're both Republicans, don't get along with each other. This happened because Noem asked him to resign after he was accused of hitting somebody with their car and killing him, which he pled no contest to. I believe he got a fine and community service, I believe, was what he did. Here it is. AP. Though Ravensburg and Noem are both Republicans, they have become political enemies over the last year after the governor pressured Ravensburg to resign following a car crash in which he struck and killed a man walking on a highway. The Attorney General pleaded no contest to 2 misdemeanors in the crash. The legislature is planning to convene in November to consider whether to proceed with impeaching Ravensburg. But wait, there's more. There's more. Tal Axelrod at the Hill. Check this out. A conservative media outlet has made an allegation. They are reporting that Governor Kristi Noem is having a sexual affair with former Trump advisor Corey Lewandowski.
Ew.
The governor tweeted, quote, "These rumors are total garbage and a disgusting lie. These old, tired attacks on conservative women are based on a falsehood that we can't achieve anything without a man's help."
Tired conservative women are.
Yeah.
"I love Brian. I'm proud of the God-fearing family we've raised together. Now I'm getting back to work." End of quote. The website that's reporting this is called American Greatness. The report cites multiple sources, with one saying members of Congress have called the affair an open secret, though none of the sources were identified.
I just can't believe these people get paid for any of this, like with our money.
But there's more. Paul Steinhauser for Fox Propaganda Channel. Republican Governor Kristi Noem is cutting ties with Corey Lewandowski, one of her top political advisors, in the wake of sexual misconduct allegations made against Lewandowski earlier this week. Apparently, The accusation is that Lewandowski grabbed a woman's ass while in Las Vegas over the weekend.
Some other woman's ass?
A Trump donor.
He got to get that money somehow.
As a result, he has been removed from a super PAC.
Oh, that's the penalty?
Yeah, that's touching.
America 2021.
That's touching.
Yeah, Lewandowski was running the Make America Great Again action. He has been replaced by former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi.
No, it's a circle of fools, and it just gets worse. All I know is on a highway, you mentioned Sioux Falls, there's a black silhouette, kind of like the bomb that burst in Hiroshima. There's people silhouetted on the blast.
Oh, God.
There's my silhouetted little trailer, 8 feet of black tar. In that state where they have no regulations. So the towing company gave me about a $2,000 bill to pull an 8-foot piece of scrap 10 miles. Because of Noem, they have no control over their free market companies.
But that's where we're at. That's where we're at. When we're all sitting here, they're just taking away all of it.
She's a work.
Yeah, so we've got another piece of work here. Winner number 1, Kristi Noem. Winner number 2, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. Almost got into a fist fight on the Capitol steps with Debbie Dingell.
Yeah.
I've got 20 on Debbie. Sorry. Debbie's got experience kicking
I just want
ass.
to watch them both hit each other. Sorry.
Taylor Greene then followed up on Twitter by calling her Dingleberry. It's like she wrote on her.
I thought I came up with that, but whatever.
She wrote on her Twitter this, quote, "My former chief of staff tells the story far better than most of the media, who apparently wants babies slaughtered as much as Representative Debbie Dingell. Dingleberry is like one of those annoying little pieces of shit that clings on far too long. Time to wipe Congress clean."
So we got a savage taking on a regressive out on the steps.
Yeah,
on the front
pretty
steps,
much.
And we're all just sitting back, all of us with critical thinking skills, entertained by this. I'm so scared for all of us.
Well, we got to have a little bit of entertainment, Hey, bread and circuses. I think that's an idea. Except in the Coliseum, we could have these Congress people fight it out.
Sure.
I mean, at this point, it's more entertaining than what they're actually doing.
So to Kristi Noem and Marjorie Taylor Greene, we've got this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you both need to stop being multiple-time douchebags, because Marjorie Taylor Greene has won this award before, too.
She's picked to win the whole thing at the end of the year.
Oh, God, maybe. Yeah, they're actually talking about a possible ethics investigation into her T-to-T with Dingell.
I'm getting to the point where, if you're in Congress, you've clearly violated ethics somewhere along the line. Oh, yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
how'd you get there?
Yeah.
Like the mafia. Well, the book, that's in the book Godfather. It said anybody in a position of power.
You got it somehow.
Somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Screw somebody.
It's true.
Oh, like you said last week, even the mafia handed out turkeys at Christmas time. So
they used to. They used to. I don't think they do anymore.
Yeah, they might not have the money anymore. Folks, we're out of time for this week. We'll be back next week. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Katy Steele.
I'm Jack Prince.
Please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.